welcome everybody to the Finance Committee on February 12th, 5:30. We got a kind of a lot of repeat items, but we've got a lot of agenda items. Pat, are you here? I just want to introduce Kathy Buono is here. She's our new Chief Administrative and Financial Officer, or soon to be. So I invited her to this meeting so she would kind of get a sense of what we're talking about, where we are. So let's start. Order number 1, December revenue versus expenditure. Pat, are you here to give us that?
Yes, thank you, Councilor Allen. Tonight I'll be presenting the December revenue versus expenditure report. This marks the half point of fiscal year 2024. As you can see, our revenue is at $458.7 million, or 51% of budget, while our expenditures are at $497.2 million, or 55% of budget. As a point of comparison, the same point last year, our revenue was at $424 million, or 50% of budget, and our expenditures were at $459.2 million, or 54% of budget.
Sorry, I didn't follow that last part. So are we a little better than last year, or a little worse?
We're actually 1% higher both on revenue and expenditures, so we're comparable to the same point last year.
Okay, great. 6-month report. Anybody have any questions for Pat?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
That doesn't take in anything to do with snow or storms, does it?
No, you'll see that in the January report. Our first major snow event, I believe, was January 7th.
Yeah, it was.
And we're anticipating one tomorrow.
I heard they downed it to 2 to 4 inches for us, though.
Really?
Yeah. John Kerrigan just called me.
Good.
A lot to do. It's amazing how much people talk about it for days and ahead of time. Well, hopefully it's a safe one. Anyway, thanks, Pat. Okay, now we got some grants. Health services for the homeless, no match required, 2.3 million. Are you Helen, for that one?
Sorry, I was muted. I apologize. This is our annual allocation for our health center. As you know, we have a health center that is called Health Services for the Homeless. It is a 330 health center located at the Worthington Street Shelter and 2 counties in Western Massachusetts. We provide behavioral health, medical care, and dental care to individuals who are unhoused.
And does this budget cover it, or is there more that we put in, or?
This budget is the grant. We do bill for those services, and so we have revenue that comes in from the billing, which supplements the core grant, but this is the core grant from the federal government.
Okay, great. Questions for anybody? From anybody? Okay, thanks, Helen. I don't see any questions. We'll move along. Nice. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner, was your funding cut because of the 9C cuts?
No, thank you for asking that question, Councilor Whitfield. Because this comes from the federal government, the state cuts had no impact on this grant, but thank you for asking that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Anybody else? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Helen, does the homeless population, has it increased or decreased, or does it stay the same?
Thank you for asking that question, Councilor Walsh. The homeless population in our region, in our 3 counties, is increasing. Also, what has happened is the unhoused and those who receive services across our 3 counties are having difficulty finding permanent shelter. But directly, your question, our population has increased slightly across our 3 counties.
Was the biggest increase in Springfield?
Because Springfield is the largest municipality in the 3 counties, yes. Our population tends to increase more than the other 3 counties that we serve.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Item 3, state aid to the public library. Is Molly here? Are you here covering that, Helen, or?
Yes,
Good.
hi, good evening, Counselor Allen. This is
Hi.
our award from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners. This funding is based on a financial report that and a statistical report that we submit to the Mass Board of Library Commissioners in the fall. Then the board votes on the award. The award is a per capita award, and there's a formula that they use. But in order to be eligible, we have to file all these reports, and we have to meet all of the state standards for public library service.
And is that our one grant for the year kind of thing, or?
Yes,
So you often come here with other grants, but this is the one grant from the state.
yes, this is correct. Yeah, this is our annual state aid award.
And it can be used for operational expenses.
We use it to offset personal services in our budgets. We use it to pay for our substitute librarian program and for computer equipment and other special programs and services.
Great. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, moving along to item 4. Greater Springfield Senior Services Grant, $87,000 plus.
Yes, Counselor Allen, I will represent the Department of Elder Affairs. This is a grant that we receive annually. The $87,000 pays for 2 outreach workers that we use in order to outreach to our elders across the city of Springfield.
Great. Helen, while we're on that topic, I missed her at the end, but I heard Sandy Federico retired. And she ran elder affairs, so as far as I know. So is there an arrangement, a management arrangement for the time being?
Currently, we have in place an individual, well, let me start by saying that we have received applications for the director's position. We will be doing those interviews the last week in February. There are quite a number of applicants who are interested in this position. So we will interview over 4 days. After that period, we will obviously perhaps go into second round. So a process in place for replacement. Currently, I've asked one of my staff, Mr. Tony Pettaway, to be a liaison between me and the Department of Elder Affairs. I did that step because currently there are 3 members of the Department of Elder Affairs who have applied for the position, and I wanted to make sure that we had neutrality in our process.
Idea, thanks. Good, thanks for sharing that info. Anybody else have a question on this grant? 87,000 okay, great, moving on to, thanks everybody, moving on to item 5. Project Safe Neighborhood Grant, 40,000.
Good evening again. This is a grant that is coming from the Mass Gaming Commission. As you know, we have a grant that looks at the casino, individuals going home from the casino and looking at the data that might tell us, is the casino and having an impact as far as those individuals who are driving home. This is a research data-driven grant. At this point, we did receive an increase to continue our work.
All right, great. Do we evaluate that data that we get on, like, are we finding that people are driving home in an, drunk or in an unsafe manner? Or is that the idea, to be able to keep an eye on that?
That's correct, Counselor. The idea is to be able to gather that data and look at it. I mean, we certainly have worked with AAA and other entities that keep data on safe driving, but we wanted to drill down and see what the impact was on the city of Springfield. Keep in mind, we understand that it is not just our residents who frequent the casino. So we will evaluate the data from other cities and towns that surround Springfield as well.
Okay, great. Great, thank you. Anybody else? Moving along to item 6, Springfield Young Adults Gambling Project. Sounds similar.
Yes, it is. But this one really is these young individuals that we work with who are a part of our team of youth from the ages of 18 to 24 have done an amazing job. And so we received additional monies to keep that work going. They are working with their peers, youth of their age, to talk about gambling and those risk strategies that are in place. For example, video games that look at gambling, perhaps buying a scratch ticket, playing the lottery. What are those behaviors that lead up to one having a gambling problem?
Okay. And is this a grant we're receiving? Is that at 34? Where is that coming from?
The Mass Gaming Commission.
Gaming Commission, okay. All right, thanks. Anybody else? All right, moving on to item 7. A National Environmental Health Association grant, 26,000.
I feel like this is my evening, right? So this is to the we have an environmental health team, as you know, who inspects the restaurants and does so many other things. That is mandated by Chapter 111 of the Mass Public Health Laws. So this grant really is to assure that the city of Springfield is certified. This is a second grant. We received one for 2023. This one will cover 2024. It is to help our health inspectors gain the skills necessary through education to do their job.
Do they get trained in how to inspect? Yeah.
They already are trained on the inspection process, but this certification really does look at whether or not that we in the city of Springfield are meeting those standards for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So they're trained, but this gives them a further evaluation on our training and our ability to do that job.
Great, okay. Thank you. Anybody in TV land? Anybody? No. Next one is a quickie. Library donation. Not sure we even need to talk about it, but go ahead. If you have anything on it, Ellen.
Molly's here.
Oh, Molly, great. Thanks, Molly.
Yeah, hi, Councilor Allen. This is a donation from the Western Mass region to help us host a informational legislative breakfast for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to come and present their legislative agenda for fiscal 25. And one of the items on it is a 20% increase for state aid to public libraries, which would be great if we got it. It would be another $100,000. But so far in the governor's budget, it's our state aid is to public libraries is level funded. So it's an opportunity for the Mass Board of Library Commissioners to present their agenda to the local legislative delegation. And we're hosting, we're hosting the breakfast for Senators Gomez and Oliveira, and for those 2 districts at the Brightwood Library.
When is that scheduled?
That's on February 23rd at 8 a.m. At the Brightwood Library on Plainfield Street.
Nice. Okay. Thanks, Molly.
Thank
The
you.
next is donation of goods, police canine equipment donation. Somebody got that?
Didn't say how much.
I know Lindsay couldn't come. She's usually got this kind of stuff, picks up all the pieces. Okay, we'll put that one up.
I can talk about it, Counselor, if you'd like.
Yeah, go ahead.
These were actual physical donations made for the K-9 unit, so by statute, these donations have to be authorized for acceptance by the mayor and the city council, so these are unlike our normal donations that are cash, these are actual tangible items that were donated to the K-9 unit.
Okay. Any questions on it for Pat or anything? Okay, let's move along from that.
Point of information, and any grant 50,000 or less, we automatically accept. And department heads don't really have to be present. It's only if they want to, if it's 50,000 and under. So just so you guys know, they're automatically accepted without discussion.
Yeah, thanks.
Just to keep it moving.
Mhm.
Okay, item 10, free cash to Parks Department accounts, 970,000.
Yes, so I don't know if you received the letter that I sent to President Fenton for their package. But with all the rain that we had this year, we had additional mows that were required, so we were only funded for 16 mows. It's roughly a 36-week growing season, so we increased our mowing operations to 27 weeks. We've also had increases in our water sewer. It was also somewhat up and down with the weather as far as heat and so forth. So we have our water has increased to 153,000 more than what was budgeted.
Wow.
And then on the golf courses, because of the amount of rain we had, to apply more fungicide to the greens, and it was a good move because the greens were closed in excellent condition and our play is way up. So we're at 65,000 per course for additional fungicide that is required. And
That's the organic fertilizer.
no, that's for actually just a fungicide for the, but we do have in here fertilizers for the organic lawn care program as well, that we've asked to be continued to be funded. So all total, it adds up to $970,000. And we'll request that we are our budget should be at around 24 mows for a normal season. Just think about, I mow my lawn almost weekly during the spring, summer and fall. So funding it at 16 weeks is just not gonna work.
So, but that's all I got funded in the budget was 16.
I don't know why it was dropped from 22 weeks down to 16 weeks. I don't know why that happened, but
Is 16 adequate?
no, out of 36 weeks, that's 20 weeks of no mowing.
So you went 36 weeks in mowing.
So I'm recommending that we have a minimum of 24 weeks budgeted for. With all the rain that we had, we did 27 weeks of mowing for this fiscal year. And it worked. We were actually getting thank you letters from people that live on terraces and so forth. I don't know, you probably saw hopefully a little better of a cleanup, but we also did 2 fall cleanups that this work included. With the leaf drop was so late, we actually did an early fall cleanup and a late fall cleanup, and the residents were very thankful for the 2. Usually we're only budgeted for 1 fall cleanup, so they were very thankful for the 2 fall cleanup.
Yeah, they were late this year, yeah.
So anyway, it cost of doing business.
That people are very happy with most things that go into the park.
Well, thank you, yeah.
I think I would have to.
Well, I think this is what residents are, why we're paying
Yeah,
their
I
taxes
think
for
it's
this type of work too.
popular
Yeah,
departments.
well, thank you.
People have a lot of confidence in
Yeah.
you, Pat.
All right, well, thank you. We're trying.
Anybody have any questions or anything? So, all right, so I want to bring up my question, which isn't about what Pat is wanting to do. It's about free cash. And utilizing this amount of free cash, it's beyond what we normally do. And I'm not against the thing, we haven't really, as we start the year, I don't think we've really we budgeted last year, but here we already have something that's outside, you couldn't budget this in your regular budget for the year, these things, were they disallowed or were they?
I don't know why it was reduced from 22 to 16 weeks, you know. TJ must have made that decision and he's no longer here. But when we got our budget in July, we immediately reported it and, the mayor said, well, we're gonna have to increase it, and so that's why we're here.
And,
You
and
know, we gotta get the
everything,
work done.
everything's proper, it's just
Yeah.
that my viewpoint is that we need to be a little more stringent this year and careful about our budgeting, because it was just a little while ago that we had 9 people at that microphone out there crying about how they couldn't afford their taxes. Now, this is coming from free cash, so it's not affecting a tax bill, it's money we have. But is that where we're intending to spend it? I would be surprised if this didn't pass eventually, but I'm not I'm not prepared to pass it tonight. Just because I'm concerned about, we keep hearing that state aid is going down. The question about, is there any part of your existing budget that could fund this? Even part of it, 200,000, so it
Now,
reduces
we're bare bones.
your bare bones.
We need this to get through the year. We've met with the acting capital, Pat Burns, and went through this very thoroughly since starting in October. And this is, I was at 1.5 at one point, I got it below. The mayor and Pat said, you gotta get this below $1 million, and we did. And that's why we're at the 970.
Okay, well, I mean, we had a plan for free cash that and that's not about you, Pat, it's just
Yeah.
about, are we ready to,
Okay, we
do
ask
this
Pat Burns some
kinda
of
thing,
it.
yeah.
How much free cash do we
Yeah.
have?
yeah, well, Pat, can you help us here?
What do you think about this, Pat?
It's a need in the budget that, Pat Sullivan has brought forward. Currently our free cash is at 9,122,000. This will bring it down to 8,151,000. We also have a appropriation for the opiate stabilization or the opiate special revenue fund that's currently in committee. So if that was passed, our free cash would be down to 6.6 million. So the funds are available. It's just a decision of the council now whether you want to move forward with this.
What else on free cash do we have? Excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Didn't we have some other responsibilities from free cash? Wasn't there like the police contract or supervisor
We
contract?
paid that, we paid
that
the
already?
police, we paid the fire, we gave the law department their extra money for their budget. What was the other one, Pat?
We've had
Police.
$2 million to reduce the tax rate, 1.9 million to the OPEB trust fund. A little over 3 million to the police department for the contract settlement.
Contracts.
2.5 million to the fire department for the contract settlement and overtime, and 750,000 to the law department. The big thing that's still out there is the Abbey Brook culvert. We have a deficit spending fund that we set up for that, and that will have to be provided for before we set the tax rate next November. And right now that deficit's at 4.6 million.
So my point isn't that this isn't a good thing. My point is that we shouldn't be moving on free cash at this level, at this point in the year. I mean, when would you need this money?
Well, I need it, for the start. I have no money to start mowing operations the end of March. So that's why
The
I'm
end of
here
March.
before you know. So and I'm not trying to put Counselor Whitfield on the thing, but she used to be my financial analyst. So these are all services that go to the residents of Springfield. This isn't things that wish list. These are things that people expect their parks to be mowed, their terraces to be mowed, the leaves to be cleaned up. It's an operational expense.
They also expect their taxes not to go up in the fall, and that's the pressure we're
Yeah,
feeling more than ever.
Yeah,
So I'm not disputing at all what's
Yeah.
in there. I just
Yeah.
don't think we've had the conversation. Now we got a new CAFO. We haven't had the conversation about, that Abbey Brook thing. If that takes 5 million of the 6 that's left, we have no money for taxes, no money for tax relief. That 2 million we just talked about, that Pat just mentioned, We don't have that again this year. We've given,
Yeah.
in the last few years, we've given 1 million, then 2.5 million, then 10 million, then 9 million for tax relief. Last year we gave 9 million. This year we have 0, except for what we got in the bonds.
So if this doesn't pass tonight, then terraces and parks will not be mowed. There will not be any additional monies to properly open the golf courses, to fertilize the greens and so forth, because we've spent this money to stay afloat.
This
to
is
keep
money
us
that's
afloat.
already been spent.
Yeah, oh yeah, we've had to provide these services, and so this is the projection to get through the rest of the fiscal year. Again, I don't know why, we were only funded for 16 mows. Do the math, you have a 36-week growing season, you need, I know I mow my lawn sometimes twice a week. So we would have been hay fields if we didn't get.
So it's
the-
only February 12th. When would you need the money? I'm just trying to figure out.
End of March, we start.
But you
Park
said the
operations.
money's already been spent.
Well, I'm whole with my budget to date, but I don't have enough money starting the end of March. I'm out of money for mowing and fertilizing and getting things ready for the spring baseball season. You know, we need it in place now so we can hit the ground running April 1st. Spring, you know, it's here.
So, go ahead.
I was gonna ask,
I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we got a couple.
Go ahead.
Was that you, Tracy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know who you're looking at, so to me, you're turning, looking the other way, but you must be looking at the TV. Okay, so my question is, well, more of like comments than questions. It's like, I don't know, we're either gonna get the calls, we're gonna continue to get the calls on taxes, and then we're gonna add on to it by getting the calls on the parks and terraces, the blight. It's gonna be, we have a whole group of folks that care about the cleanliness of the city. It's gonna look horrible if we don't have it. I don't know if 9 million is the correct amount to start with, but there's no way that we cannot keep our city looking good when the spring starts. But I wanted to ask Pat, did you have any like personal services that we can transfer to this line at all? Like anyone retire or any jobs that?
Yeah, and we've met again with Pat Burns and all that, so we've accounted for any funds that we would anticipate for all that. So this is, like I said, I got it from 1.5 down to 970, so I've already gotten creative with almost $500,000 of what was the original request.
And so Pat Burns, we can't even count the like opioid money for free cash, really. It's not really free. But
No,
it's,
that's restricted. That has to be transferred to the special revenue fund.
so it's sitting in free cash right now. So we really only have 6,122,000.
Yes, if that would be after this transfer is approved, the 970, the balance would be 6.6 million.
Now, what do we have in free cash now?
We have 9,120,000.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I meant stabilization.
Almost $69 million.
69. And what is what's the ordinance? It says we have to have,
5% or something like that.
yeah, it's 5 to 15% of our latest budget, which was like 880 or something.
Right, right now, if you take the adopted budget of 878 million, we're at 7.8%. With the 68.9 million that's currently in the stabilization account.
So that's 7%, all right.
Close to 8.
Close to 8, yeah.
And this.
Are you gonna let
request-
me finish my line of questioning or are you gonna take over?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to finish. So did Pat Sullivan leave?
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're with them. You're in the office. I can't,
I'm
it's
on,
like different boxes. It looks different this time. Okay. So you can see.
I'm glad I'm off camera.
No, I still see you over in the corner. You're real small. So I do agree with Counselor Allen 100% about the amount. Especially because like we get calls weekly on these property taxes, and I mean weekly, and Definitely when it's budget season, I just want to make councils aware that is when the property tax rate is really set. And so we have to pay close attention to the revenue as well as the expenses, although we only approve the expenditures, the revenue is an important piece because it has to balance, so where's that revenue coming from? And so we have to pay close attention to both. And I know we pay attention, but I don't know how close we do on the revenue side. Are there any grants or any opportunities, Pat, that you know of that's
Yeah,
coming
grant-
down the pipe?
Grants do not fund maintenance. Yeah, this is a direct thing. This is money that taxpayers expect to be spent on. These are services that why we pay our taxes. As I drive the city, I want the parks mowed. I want my terrace maintained. and,
I want to
and
be able to not have a lien on my house too, because I can't pay property tax and go.
Well, again, so I
You
know
know?
you got to balance both, but again, I wouldn't be doing I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't bring it up now. Imagine me bringing this in May.
No, you're bringing
And
it
I-
up, it's
and-
great.
And I can't deficit spend legally, so come April 1st, if I don't have the money, I've got to shut operations down.
Okay, but it's not April 1st yet, so it's good you brought it to us.
Yeah, but then it's
Yeah.
gonna take you guys till May or mid-May, so I've gone April and mid-May without any
Don't
operations.
be brought
no
back
alarm.
up. We
No
got
alarm.
some
I
more-
just know how
We have
government.
Another meeting
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah, we got more meetings that we can talk about it before, April or May, but
14 years, we
Yeah.
basically approved everything that comes down the pike.
Oh, yeah.
And for us to take a stance of being a little stronger on stabilization and free cash and stuff, it's time. We had 9 people crying at the microphone. They couldn't pay their taxes.
Mhm.
And that was indelible on my mind at this point.
Yeah.
And
Which is why we asked for and got a further reduction in the tax.
yeah, I went to the mayor on behalf of the council. We got 1 more million reduction, but there's no million reduction right now. All there is the 2 bonds. Which is nice. That was Mike's idea to invest in those bonds. But it's a little harder this year.
This is a catch-22. I mean, people pay taxes to get services.
Well, it is a catch-22. It's just like.
But with the bonds, Pat, we could also, put a little bit less toward the bonds or wait until we have free cash and then see if we can still meet that. What is it, 40 million to get the 2 million of investment,
It's
something like?
already, that money's already invested.
Oh, now, but the bond, we renew it annually, so I'm saying like, it's still $40 million, right? Something like that, Pat Burns?
Yes, I believe it was 45 million. Steve, can you confirm that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I-
it's 25 million. And then we rolled that into the, for another year, so December it'll come due again.
Right, so maybe think about maybe using 5 million in that and investing 40 million and getting a little bit less interest. I don't know. But it has to be figured out because we're going to need to cut grass and maintain terraces along with trying to get property taxes in a manageable amount because it's really, really hard for our taxpayers. And we are going to get the calls on how our city looks, so we gotta try to figure something out, so maybe we could have another discussion, roundtable discussion.
We're
try
gonna
to
need
make
some
it
sort of
really-
round. Yeah,
Yeah,
I wanted the finance committee to have that kind of a meeting. This is not that meeting. It's only coming up now because Pat has this big request. But Pat Byrne, I still gotta get back to Jose. Why don't you go first, Jose?
No, I just had questions around what's the normal budget for this typically?
Well, like usually I'm budgeted at 22 mows, so I should have only had to come in for 4 additional mows.
So you're budgeted for 22 mows and how much is it?
But I was only budgeted for 16 mows this fiscal year,
But till the fiscal year before, how much were you budgeted for?
for 22 mows.
What was that amount?
what is the
I-
number?
But I don't have my budget in front of me.
Okay, and so you've got 16, so you're shorted 6 mows.
I was shorted 10 mows this year.
So I guess, what was the budget for the 16 mows?
I don't have that paperwork in front of me, Counselor.
Okay,
Can you
And we
get
don't need,
to us,
And I-
Pat
I'm not-
Sullivan?
I'm just trying to-
We need to know how many mows and how much they cost. And this is a finance meeting, so if you can get us that information, that would be very helpful for our decision-making purposes. Thank
yeah,
you.
I'm just trying to understand overall, like, I'm not,
Oh, no,
you've been
they're all
doing
good
this-
questions.
You've been doing this
Yep.
forever, so for me, I'm just trying to understand this. I didn't get a chance. I don't think I saw the attachment, so I apologize in advance for that. So I'm just trying to understand that piece.
Mhm.
What is this 970 in the larger picture of what the budget is?
Mhm.
What's your typical mowing season? You said it's 22 weeks, so you said when do you start? March or April?
Usually April,
April to,
mid-October, late, well, early November.
all right.
Long season.
Yeah, that's well, it's like,
And then you also mentioned we're doing better in the golf courses. It's up.
yeah, we have additional revenue that we're,
That's great.
So that's reflected in
Actually-
obviously the minus.
actually, that money could probably cover this expense. That new revenue that we're taking in.
Okay.
Do you have that?
But you can't, I don't think you can access that revenue till next fiscal
To
year.
next
though.
fiscal year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Revenue.
that's general fund revenue, so that goes, similar to all of our other revenues, it offsets the overall budget. So if it's above revenue estimates, it's gonna flow to free cash. But that won't be until next year.
So I mean, I'm with folks, I mean, particularly Council Whitfield mentioned, we want to keep our city looking good. I just want to understand the bigger financial picture because we're gonna be going into budget season, so what's that number gonna be like?
Mhm.
The other thing, it's almost going back to item one, I think it was, Pat, your December revenue, I kind of missed part of that. So you said we were 1% year over year?
Yes, our revenue is at 51%. Last year was at 50, so we're up 1% from last year, but on the opposite side, our expenditures are at 55% and they were at 54 last year. So it shows that our performance is comparable to fiscal year 23.
Okay, it is comparable. So we're on pace, I guess, with the budget that we have currently for fiscal year 24. We're on pace. We're not behind in terms of revenue that we're bringing in.
Correct.
that was-
In a situation like this, Pat Sullivan's needs more money within his budget, so he's within his budget currently, but it's gonna result in him reducing services. That's why he's asking for this appropriation. So
Okay.
that would be, in essence, a budget shortfall within our budget because that money was not appropriated at the beginning of the year, but there's a need for it now.
All right. Thank you for that. I was just trying to get, a sense of where we are from a revenue picture in terms of the pace and then also understanding the larger thing. So I mean, I still wanna know more, Pat, in terms of.
Oh, I'll get that information by early next week.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jose. So I'm just looking at some numbers, just, of tax increases for the last 4 years. Average single family, what do we call it? The average single family home. First year was an increase of 123, the next year was 216, the next year was 194, and the next year was 156. So what's that? 339, 539, 533, 633, 689. So just about $700 from a starting point of 3,200. So that's like a 20% increase in 4 years, and that's just the average. So I'm not here trying to be a pain in the neck or anything. I just see a different year this year. Well, we basically, when the CAFO signs off on something, we generally approve it. And I just think that having gone through that tax season and we don't have as much money as we've had. Last year, we had all the Eversource money. So it was an inflated free cash. I don't know that we have a scheme for free cash. We had one. I have it here. What the
Yeah.
scheme was. That's what what Pat went through. I'm just suggesting, like, Pat, is it possible there would be other departments, like Pat Sullivan's department, that would be putting in for some uses of free cash in the next month or two? Is that the type of, as CAFO, did you see those kind of requests coming in? Or is it likely we won't get, that's what I'm trying to say, give everybody a.
Just the only other expense we'll have is snow.
There's reserve for contingencies too. I can agree that we've got to be more sensitive to taxes, but I don't know whether or not we can balance it on basic services.
Well, I'm not really talking about the services. I think we're all probably gonna end up voting for Pat's services. It's just like, what look do we have to have on this budget before we just dive in? the last time we were talking finances, people were crying at the microphone. And we said, oh, we'll be responsive to taxes next year. Well, this is it. This is when you start being responsive or thinking about spending less. I'm not saying we should spend, not fund this. I'm just saying, is there another one coming behind us from another department and another? And is this what we're gonna use free cash for?
What, can't we use reserve for contingencies for other things?
Well, there's a lot of things we could use, but not everybody will agree with using them. And that's, my point is just to have a conversation in February before we go into the budget season as to what requests do we see coming in? Pat beat the buzzer. He's in early and he needs it. I mean.
It is true. It's true because then they'll come back with snow and leaves and all these other requests that may have been cut from the budget. I just can't understand how 10 mows was cut and it was missed. Like, where was your budget analyst, Pat, when the cuts happened? Because they have to come from your department, from my understanding.
No. So we submit our budget and then we get the finalized budget when you do in July. And then that's when we found that we were short the 10 mows. So I immediately started meeting with the CAFO, he left. And then I met with the acting CAFO, I think Pat, late September is when you took over.
Oh, I remember
Yeah.
very well, unfortunately.
Yeah, so Counselor, if you've worked with me all these years, you know, I don't hold back, so I reported it immediately to the CAFOs. And Pat said, again, that's when we started working at, where I was at 1.5, I cut back on different things that we would normally have done during the year and got it below that $1 million mark as requested by the CAFO.
Now, I, for one, would never want to get to the point where you can't open the pools.
Well, right now we have free
Have the
cash.
money to- Yeah.
I think we should consider free cash before we go to reserves for contingency, because we do have it. It's not like we don't.
We do
And
have it. We're lucky
I'm
on
just
that.
saying we
Yeah.
should consider it, but I think, Counselor Allen has a valid point, and for the record, and I know that you want to speak, Counselor Edwards, his hand has been up,
Oh,
for the
sorry.
record, I want to say I have not supported any of these tax increases, because you say we, and that's all inclusive, and I have not, and I voted against it, just like I voted against the budget, because I knew one day we were gonna get to a situation like this. So for the record, I just wanted to say that, but you are right, there are gonna be other asks that come down the pike that will dwindle that, 6 million or 5 if we pay for this in free cash, and we do need to be a little bit more frugal. Thank you.
So Counselor Wiltshire, that brings up a good point too, with why I'm here tonight is as my prior analyst, we've got to start encumbering the monies now. We've got to start getting our orders in and so forth. And if we don't do it in the next week or two, we will be behind the 8 ball. That's why I'm here now. I couldn't wait to see if there's additional savings or how bad the winter was gonna be. I know this is a city problem now. I gotta deal with it now. So, I'm glad that the dialogue has started, but I would ask you not to hold me hostage from getting my job done. I will get you all that information in the meantime, and we're also looking at how, going forward with the budget, is there a better way and a cheaper way to get this work done, you know? Right now, we had outsourced it, we're pricing out, the problem is though, you can't hire enough people to get the work done, that's why it's been proven to stay with outsourcing these mowing operations.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway,
We're all in a catch-22, but I just gotta get work done, so I would ask you for
All
your
right.
consideration, and I'd be happy to be part of the dialogue as you move forward.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at the big meeting as to whether we're gonna take a step to look at this stuff or whether, what everybody thinks, so. But that was item 10. We got a bunch of other items that are statements of interest.
Counselor Allen, I
Excuse
think
me,
Counselor Edwards has a
Oh,
point.
I'm sorry, Melvin, yeah, sorry, I just don't,
And Victor has a-
Yeah,
My
yeah.
only thing, Mr. Chair,
go
we had a
ahead.
lot, we had a large agenda. This is my first finance meeting, and I apologize. I'm not used to this long conversation about the same issue. So the point is that we have a long agenda, and I thought if it's the will of the chair for the committee to recommend that this be, voted on by the committee of the whole to have a further discussion, then I think we could do that. But if we're going to spend as much time on this one item, in about 7-8 minutes, I need to start getting dressed to go to City Hall to attend the meeting in person. So,
Yeah, well,
and I
I
don't,
I don't have any need to continue talking about this. I'll bring it up in the committee report.
Yeah.
And, Victor, you want to add something to it?
Thank you, Councilor. I just have one question. I think you might have answered. So the reason you're asking for these $970,000 now is because if you don't put in the orders within the next 2 or 3 weeks, it's gonna back you up
Oh,
and
absolutely.
potentially impact the services in the summer.
That's correct.
Thank
For
you.
the spring, April 1st, I gotta be ready to roll.
Okay,
You know, you, as a park ranger, you saw. you know,
Absolutely.
we're- you know,
absolutely. I'm very aware.
So,
And we've actually started doing work now.
so the chair, why can't we do both? Why can't we take care of Pat, but still have
Well,
the,
that's for the,
still have the discussion?
that's for the big meeting, you know, the council meeting.
well,
Maybe we
that's
can.
the point, is
I-
that we're gonna, the issue that Tracy and Tim are bringing up is legitimate, and I support it in both, from both perspectives. The issue is though, we should have a committee meeting about that, or finance should have a meeting specifically on either this item or how we're going to address the potential for the next tax season having as many people on at the podium. But is that appropriate to have it right now, especially when we're going to open up, go back to the committee of the whole with an expectation we're going to have the same conversation with the rest of the councilors on the same issue, and we still have all these schools to deal with.
Yeah, so
And-
let's just move on from this item. We've had enough
Counselor-
And I can make
discussion.
the school very quick.
Yeah, can you do this?
Counselor Allen, quickly, I
Yes.
made a mistake. And looking at my paperwork, the Safe Neighborhoods Grant was not mine and should belong to the police department. Can we let Brian Keenan spend a moment to talk about that again? It was my mistake. I'm looking at the paperwork. That's a police department grant. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, thanks. Go ahead, Brian.
Hey, Counselor, how you doing? The Project Safe Neighborhood, it's $40,000 for the Springfield Police to work in conjunction with the Mass State Police on gang violence, human trafficking, and crime reduction strategies. It's the 40,000 has to be spent between now and June 30th.
Okay. Any questions for Officer Keenan?
Can you just repeat the uses of it?
Sure, Counselor, how you doing? It's for gang violence, anti-gun, anti-drug, anti-human trafficking strategies.
To develop strategies?
Strategies and can combat the problems, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just want to mention Counselor Davila and Counselor Govan have joined the meeting. And we've got to have a lively discussion about the budget in the last few minutes, Counselor Govan. But we have to do these orders of statement of interest.
Yeah, I'll be
For the
very quick
school,
for you
so-
on that, Counselor.
Yeah, go right ahead, man.
So as you know, every year we come in at this time of the year to submit the statement of interest. So for this year, we have the CORE program with Kensington White as our priority. We're also gonna put in for Washington Beal. And this year, the MSBA moved boilers to the CORE program, and that's gonna be the Chester boiler. Under windows and doors, we're applying for Pottinger, Milton Bradley, Rebecca Johnson, Central High School. And under school roofs this year, we're applying for Commerce High, Indian Orchard, Sumner Avenue, Bowles, and Glenwood. And this year we hit with the Harena School Project, we hit $1 billion in money in working with the MSBA, so.
Yeah.
So really, really remarkable.
Also-
So, you know, Counselor Whitfield, you're asking about grants. I'm doing the best I can.
I'm sorry, what is that White Street on Washington getting?
So we're recommending a new White Street school, and the superintendent of schools feels that could be joined with Kensington. You know how they did DeBerry,
Yeah.
Homer. So anytime they can combine schools,
Yeah.
they're in that MSB. Like, I don't know if we'll get it right out of the box, but we're gonna, you know, we'll ask for it for that
Mr. Chair,
project. But that's
if I-
the priority for the school
If I
district.
may, Mr. Chair, do we have a site in mind or?
No, we don't do any of that. So the MSBA will look at our application, and then that's when that will
Okay.
get flushed out
What about
through
Washington?
the application
What's
process.
for Washington School?
Washington, we are recommending a new Washington school as well. And-
Okay.
And then that could be joined with Beal.
Is that the trend now to be cost effective?
Yeah, they're looking at what the trends are gonna be for enrollments and so forth, so
But it decreases the overall, the.
there's a chance that you could
Overhead.
combine those two, yeah. And it's working out, you know, we did Brightwood, Lincoln, that's been successful, and we just did, and DeBerry and Homer.
It looks very nice.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you, Pat.
So for the chair though, these are just suggestions that you're sending to the master building.
that's correct. No guarantees we'll get them, but we'll get 2 or 3 of them a
Pretty
year.
Successful. with-
Yeah, yeah.
Like, hasn't Springfield been,
Yeah, we're at $1 billion,
Yeah.
$1 billion, you
Are
know?
we getting
what's
60
the
or
most successful, school district?
And to get Harena picked finally is huge.
Yeah.
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 Are we getting 60 or 80% reimbursement on this?
On the windows and roofs, you got your 80, and I think you're close to like 68% on your new school building.
68.
But, the peak already could answer that question.
Is Arena above, ahead of these two?
Harena's been approved. We're ready to roll it out. The design I don't know. Yeah, that'll be all part of the process.
But it's ahead of these. It's already.
It's already been approved. MSBA finally approved it. Yeah,
Right.
so it's good news.
Oh, yeah.
All right, any other questions on any of these items we discussed? We have 2 members of the, all 3 members of the finance committee here. Jose and Melvin, if you want to make a motion,
To approve Pat's request.
to approve everything or everything but past request or whatever, or we'll just talk about it at the,
Think what item? 10.
done that before. You all set? We
What
don't
committee are
need,
you
we
on?
don't need a motion.
Do we need a motion?
No.
No?
It's nice to have one sometimes, but
So you can't vote on
you don't need one.
it. The elder.
You wanna make one, I'll second it, as long as you exclude item 10.
I'll have to look at
All
dirty.
right, I make a motion to approve all items excluding item 10 for further review.
I second.
What was item 10?
I mow and maintain park, so. Yeah,
Oh, no.
So,
I'm gearing up the fight.
she would have loved this discussion. It's all, so,
We'll fix that, don't worry.
Is it
Exactly.
possible to get-
all right, all in favor? Say aye.
Sorry,
So everybody, meeting's over. The idea here is we need to start having tougher conversations on the budget, and
But
maybe
you
this
gotta make
was.
Sure you gotta pick the right item to have a tougher.
Yeah,
No, you
conversation.
can't always pick the right item. You gotta look at the budget fairly, every part of the budget. And I know that's nice. I don't wanna cut Pat's budget either, and I don't think we will, but. We're into that point now. I mean, it's been easy sailing, in my opinion, to approve every financial order that comes down the pike. We approve them all. And I think we have to be a little more discerning. Ms. Caffo.
I mean, I also don't think it's right to have Pat be the poster, the first poster child for this. So it was gonna be somebody at some point.
I'm worried.
So, thanks for coming. We'll see you inside at the regular meeting.